I appreciate it. So let's just dive right into it. Why don't you tell us, introduce who you are, your role here at SDI, and how long you've been here.
Okay, thank you. So I've been with SDI since November of 2020. That's about 4 months now. I am an operations manager over the SI group.
Mhm.
My sites include the Freeport, Orangeburg, Morgantown, and Rotterdam Junction sites.
You've been here since for a couple months now. What attracted you to SDI?
One of the things that I appreciated during the interview process was interviewing with a team member as well as, your N plus one and N plus two, because it gives you a good sense of the people that you're going to be working with day to day. It also, I think, from the company's perspective, allowed them to have a bit more of a technical discussion about some of the skills that would be relevant to the job. And I
Hmm.
think it was a great way to really make sure that I was going to be a good fit for the team and that, the job was going to be a good fit for me. So I took the long way through college. I went to college as soon as I came out of high school, and I had a lot of fun. I didn't do well. My parents told me they weren't going to pay for me to go to school and parties, so
And
they
we
kind of
all
gave
had
me,
that experience. I mean, really.
well, they gave me the keys to the car and said, "Hey, you've got to figure it out now. If you want to party, you're going to have to do it on your own dime." And I realized that I was pretty poor. I didn't have a job. I was a college student. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps. I wanted to be able to go back to school. I felt a little bad about the way that I'd lived my life, and I wanted to be able to do it on my own. But I also knew that I needed the discipline to be able to do what I needed to do, so that I could have the fun that I wanted to have. So I went and I joined the military. I fixed helicopters for 5 years in Japan, and
Nice.
then I came back and went back to school in industrial engineering at Clemson University, best university in the U.S. Um, Went back to school and did industrial engineering and actually graduated and worked for Schneider Electric. My first roles were project manager and a supervisor within a warehouse within their central distribution center. And then I moved over to the buying and planning side of the supply chain, working in managing a portfolio of products and working with both internal and external vendors. After that, I had the opportunity to go back to the warehouse as the operations manager, and ended up, unfortunately, COVID hit, and there was some downsizing. I found myself without a job and ended up here.
Well, we're glad to have you. It sounds like you have a lot of supply chain experience. What's been your biggest surprise since coming over onto the MRO side of the supply chain?
The number of vendors, and so for Schneider, for a lot of probably vertically integrated enterprises where you're manufacturing and selling a lot of your own product,
Hmm.
you know exactly who to talk to. You know exactly, how much the transfer price is going to be from the plant to the warehouse. You know exactly, where everything needs to go and who to contact for it.
Hmm.
Here, with the number of suppliers that we have, it's been a bit of a learning curve trying to make sure that we can stay on top of all the issues that we face that come across from different suppliers within the MRO space.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things you hear a lot. I mean, with
Mhm.
direct supply, maybe you're dealing with a dozen suppliers, but with the indirect and then specializing in MRO in particular, I think we have about 6,000, maybe 6,500 suppliers that we work with. So it's really nuanced is the right word, I guess. And you've been here mostly during the pandemic. As you reflect on the pandemic and your experience, what have you learned either in supply chain at SDI or just in life in general?
Probably, and this is something that came up a little more recently, is learning to work with empathy. Um, just because something isn't getting done the way or in the time frame that you want, it doesn't mean that someone is doing a bad job. There's a lot of things that people go through. There's a lot of struggles that people have that you may know nothing about. My close work with our buyers, for example. I recently started working with them to try to understand the buying process, and to be quite honest, it's a nightmare. I don't want to do it. I see what they go through, and it gives me a keener appreciation of what they have to work with. And when I understand that, it gives me it better helps me understand what they're dealing with. So when I'm talking to them and we're trying to work through a problem, I'm not as frustrated because I understand what the problem is from their side. So that empathy has been one of the biggest takeaways from COVID, as we've started trying to manage all this, work from home, deal with all the restrictions and interactions that have to change. So it's been interesting.
Nice. I like that a lot. I mean, as a marketer, one of the things that we had to do quickly was instead of trying to sell solutions, we were just trying to solve problems. Like, what is it that you need to stay open, and working from there. So I empathize with that viewpoint. So, I mean, speaking of solving problems, I mean, it's only been a few months, but I'm sure there have been a number of challenges that you've had to overcome. Is there any that stand out in particular that you can share about?
Probably, and this would be just very personal for me, setting up a working schedule at home. I'm one of the people that I like going in the office. I like meeting people. I like talking, face to face. I think there's a lot of loss when you don't get the opportunity to see a lot of the nonverbal communication that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's hard to present it to a room of blank faces on Zoom when there's no feedback.
Right.
It's just a little gray face that's sitting there. Um, so learning to deal with that and learning to be able to work with people without that face-to-face interaction has been one of the hardest things that I've had to adjust to. And my big takeaway has been, there's a lot of emails that go around. Mine's been just to call people. Email is even less. There's less cues in email.
Mm-hmm.
You take out tonality, you take out hesitations in speech. You can't read a whole lot into it because it's
Yeah.
just text. So trying to call people instead of email, it helps maintain the relationship, but it helps also, not have things get lost in communication.
I
So
like
working
that.
working through that's been the biggest challenge that I've had because like I said, I like meeting people and actually going to an office.
So, I mean, you're working at the customer site. How do you know the work that you do makes a difference for the customer?
So I think that actually goes back to a bigger question of should the economy be open versus should, we all try to stay at home and what's really best for people.
Mm-hmm.
That's rather difficult to answer. And the reason for it is because I think that all customers need to be open at some point. If our economy comes to a standstill, the money stops moving in a circle, and it hurts everybody. That being said, it is very, very risky for some individuals to be congregating or to be in enclosed spaces or to
Mm-hmm.
be within 6 feet. So knowing that I get to be able to be out there to help support them, you know, we've got a lot of refineries. They're sending out gas. I mean, you're talking about supporting essential services, you know, putting gas out there. Even if you go down to the most basic services, ambulance, firefighters, police, there are still things they need. We're providing PPE. We're providing different chemicals. We're providing, the materials that they need to stay open and be able to operate. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you cut the rest of society out, we're still there supporting the ones that are helping us keep the bare minimum going.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly what we're talking about is our customers are essential, and thus, I mean, you're essential. The work that we're doing on site, helping them, maintain uptime is crucial. So yeah, that's thank you. Um, what is that the most rewarding part of your job, or is there?
Honestly, the most rewarding part of my job, and this is if you took everything in the world, if we lived in and I'm going to use this in a non political sense, like a utopian communist society where every job was equally valued, everybody did exactly what they were supposed to so we could live in a utopia. If I had the choice of money doesn't matter, I can do whatever I want, I would be a teacher. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy the click moment, the dawning in the eyes of
Mhm.
hey, I got it. Um, I really, really like that. Whether it's myself or a process or a person, I like making things better. And so for me, when I can sit down, it may not be something big, but if I can sit down and help teach and help progress somebody else, that's personally rewarding for me.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that I enjoy.
And you have the opportunity to do that there because you have a whole site, so you have employees that work for you, and then obviously working with the customer to help them find what they need. Um,
It's I actually realized today that uh, the skills that I bring to the table, because we used a specific ERP software with Schneider, we used
mhm.
SAP.
Okay.
Our client recently transferred to SAP, and they don't have the standing expertise or processes in place that maybe I can help provide them. So when
Hmm.
I look at that, that says that okay, not only are we able to go in and help you with your spend on MRO, but maybe we can help you kind of refine your processes and set some processes in place that'll help you be more efficient with your scheduling and your routing. When you do that, that helps us know what our priorities are, and we'll be able to give you better service. It's a win-win, and it's kind of exciting to know that you can be on the forefront of setting that up for a company as they're transitioning through their ERP change.
That is nice. That's and that's very specific, but it's definitely one of the value adds in having people with so much knowledge and expertise working for you. So, well, I mean, is there any advice that you would give to any of the new hires coming on board?
Well, okay, specific to the new hires, I would recommend that you take advantage of the onboarding process, uh, not just from a networking opportunity, but
Hmm.
the ability to understand who controls what and who's going to be able to help you with your problems. This is not a company where you're going to be expected to be able to solve all your own problems. It's going to require communication and help from other departments, and knowing who's involved in those departments is a an incredibly valuable thing that the onboarding offers. You can sit down, make a connection, and then when you finally do have an issue, you can be like, hey, we know we talked last week about this, but we got something this week that I was hoping we could work on together. So that internal networking, that understanding of where the roles and responsibilities lie is very important for the new hires to have.
Yeah, that's good. Knowledge sharing is important. Just so helping other people learn from your mistakes. Right. Well, Andrew Cook, thank you so much for your time today.